Welcome to Morrison Madness. Thanks for joining us. I'm Don.
I'm LaShelle.
And this is our friend Laura.
Hello.
I'm assuming you go by Laura.
Laura or Bay, either one works.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Awesome.
So, LaShelle and I have decided that after suffering through the coronavirus and being married for 7 years, that, you put on it's a true thing. Like, when you're the one that told me the other day, when you're happy in a marriage, what happens?
For males, they gain weight.
Yeah.
That's a sign that if males are happy in their marriage, they tend to gain weight.
So,
There's
I put on a lot of weight.
supposedly a
I must just be
psychological
giddy
thing
as
about
hell.
that. Well, great.
So, but we have decided that we need to get healthy.
Yes.
So not only do we need to try and do some cardio stuff to get our lungs back.
Yeah, because I can't sing.
Right. For our DJ karaoke company and that kind of thing.
Right.
But we also need to just generally get in shape. We need to lose weight. We need to be healthier all around.
Yep.
And so we are lucky in that we have a friend. We have lots of friends that
We do
we're
have
lucky
lots of friends that we're lucky
to be friends with. But we're lucky that we have a friend that is a certified
Personal trainer
personal trainer
and nutritionist.
And so she has agreed to come down and be on our podcast and try to help us get healthy.
Yeah. She's going to tell us what to do.
And hopefully what not to do.
Yeah, that's
there's a lot of stuff out there
That's usually the bigger part.
Is it?
Yeah, what not to do.
Oh, no more chocolate.
Right. And so, obviously beforehand, we talked a little bit. We had dinner with Laura and discussed...
We're really mean to our guests
Right.
as well as our video guy. We make them eat our food.
That's right. And we discussed what would be, the best kind of stuff for us, and she helped us talk through that, and then she's going to set us up on a plan, and we will keep you updated on how the plan is going for us and what kind of progress we're making, partially because sometimes people are interested in that, but also so that we can be held accountable, because if you're held accountable,
right,
you tend to do better.
Right.
You tend to want to stay focused and want to stay on top of it.
So we're being super public about this.
Right.
Rock on.
Right. All three of the people that listen to our podcast.
Yes. And the fact that these podcasts usually are published like 2 to 4 weeks after we've actually recorded them. So if you see us in public, you're behind the times, probably. But that's okay. You can still ask us.
Right.
Because it's an ongoing, it's a lifestyle, right?
Absolutely.
Rock on. I'm getting something right tonight. So, so yes, feel free to check on us.
So, a little bit of background.
Yeah.
Laura and I have known each other for 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
We worked together at a plasma center.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that.
I started there as a centrifuge tech, and Laura was a phlebotomist. And then I worked my way up to being a phlebotomist. And then Laura got me a job as Joe Photo.
Yeah.
And I learned how to take pictures. And I was okay at it. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I wish that I could make a camera see what I envision.
Right.
And I just cannot. I am not that good at it. Laura, on the other hand, is a great photographer.
Yes, she
and for
is.
many years had a photography business.
Yes.
And just decided to do something different. We've had other businesses since then too. I mean, you were...
Yeah, basically, really loved the photography, but my son was getting to the age where I wanted to be able to spend more time with him, and a lot of photography stuff takes place on evenings and weekends, and I realized that my mother was taking my son to his sporting stuff and school stuff and while I was working. I'm like, it's not how I wanted it to be, so I had to kind of make a shift and just shifted to running a different business.
Well, and for a while there, you were doing with your dad, right? You had the airport shuttle.
Yep, so about the time I wanted to get out of photography, my dad had some health things, needed somebody to maybe step in and kind of at least know how to run the family business, and ultimately just kind of shifted to that. So I still did photography part-time for quite a while, but primarily shifted to full-time doing the business at the airport, and then I had the flexibility. I could drop my son off at school, I could pick him up when he was done with school, I could go to his events, and just kind of fit the lifestyle better, not necessarily the career that I had envisioned per se, but the hours and opportunities just fit a lot better with where I was actually at in life at that time.
So think back when you were going to college, or even before that.
When
Because when I met you, you were in college.
Pre-med student.
Right. Yeah. So what did you want to be when you grow up?
I wanted to be a surgeon. So yeah, Do you know anybody that's like working in their field that they initially went to school in their major? Not many people
very
that
few.
I know. So the fun part is, though, it kind of came full circle, is that I like the medical health stuff, and I'm kind of back to a bit of a medical health place, because in high school I started working at the hospital in the nutrition department, but I helped handle putting together some of the diet plans for the late patient admissions. So I kind of am back to
cool.
doing something that's along the line of what I did when I was 16. So
Right.
a lot of years later.
Well, that's neat.
So
That's very cool.
what is the name of your, I'm assuming that you have a business.
I do have a business for personal training. It's called Corridor Personal Training, just kind of because I work with people in the Iowa City and Cedar Rapids area. I also work at facilities, that I am an employee at the facilities, but outside of that, I personally run business where I work one-on-one with people. Most of that is somewhat remotely, where, as you were talking about, the accountability,
Right.
kind of set people up with programs that are appropriate for their goals. So I provide the direction and the accountability, and they kind of implement the plan a little bit more on their own versus having me right next to them the whole time.
Sure.
So a lot of times what people just really need to do, or what they want to know, is, what do I do? They know they want to do something. They know they want to take positive steps, but they don't know, today I need to do this many of this.
Right.
So I can kind of map that all out, and people can kind of follow that roadmap and then know that I'm watching from afar.
Sure.
And so that's the accountability piece. And then we can just kind of steer it as it goes along. So as my own business, that's kind of how I primarily work with people.
Gotcha.
And so you have, I'm assuming there's a different approach for somebody like, let's say I wanted to bulk up and get, super muscular, and where she wants to tone and lose weight.
Be bikini
Not
ready.
that that's what we want to do. I'm just saying this is an
Right.
example. Then you cater the program that you have towards the individual based on what it is that they want to get out of it.
Yes, the weird part is that typically they don't look a whole lot different, because truly in the fitness world, we don't talk about tone. That is not actually a thing. You either are building muscle or you're losing muscle, and you're either gaining fat or you're losing fat. So most people's goal truly is to lose fat and gain muscle. And then you do have some people that want to just gain muscle. They're looking to bulk up, they're a bodybuilder or something like that. But it's not really, when people say tone, what I hear is you want to build some nice lean muscle, and you want to lose enough body fat that you can see that muscle.
Sure.
So it's just kind of, the principles are relatively simple. It's applying it and then actually doing the workouts. The
Sure.
doing the workout part, the applying the nutrition plan, the making the meals, all that, that's the hard work.
Right.
The science behind it's pretty straightforward. It's proven. For creating a program for somebody, it doesn't really, it's one of those things that at this point in time doesn't take a whole lot of thought in my end, because I know exactly what we need to do to
Sure.
kind of work on whatever they're looking for.
Gotcha.
So what if I wanted to increase my strength? Still going to be the same basic type of program, or?
Depends on whether you've been working out recently or not. So if you haven't been working out recently, which is the case that so many people are in right now, it's all going to look fairly similar in the beginning. But if you were somebody that had been training for a long period of time and you truly want to hit that strength end of it, we just train in a certain way. We train with a different intensity. We train with a different number of sets and reps to hit that strength end. There's a different approach if you're wanting to build muscle. There's a different approach if you're wanting to get that kind of ballistic power, like somebody that's training to play football or something. They're going to train a little bit differently. But anybody stepping into working out or stepping back into fitness that's had a break, we need to approach it in a similar manner, because what happens is what gets weak right away is the connective tissue in the joints. So you
Right.
just can't jump back in to doing things maybe the way you used to. You run the risk of injury. So we kind of step everybody in till we get to a certain level of what I call foundational strength, where we know that we've kind of brought the connective tissue on board, the joints are kind of strong, they can handle what we're going to throw at them, and then the course of the programs would take a different direction based on your specific goals. But initially, there's some things that we need to kind of get into place for everybody, where you're strong enough to do the rest of the program.
Gotcha.
So I feel like when we were going through all of the information, so you started by, you knew that I had some health issues and you were asking me about medications that I was on, and then, you have an app that we filled out some more information on, and it asks about other health-related things. And I wasn't thinking through enough about it because I don't pay that much attention to it. Even though I've had it my whole life, I was only diagnosed with it within the last 7 years. But hearing you talk about connective tissue, I have a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and I suppose that would probably be important for you to know that.
Yeah, we take those kind of things into account, yes. So we can talk about that, but yeah.
So I apologize that I forgot to mention that.
Very often when we're going through initial stuff and talking about health challenges people have had, they do forget things. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I can't remember right now exactly I had asked, sometimes it's terminology. I asked somebody if they had any, our question initially is, do you have any metabolic diseases, which, all sorts of different things fall under that. But the person had said no. And as we're talking, they mentioned a medication. I'm like, well, let's back up. Are you a type 2 diabetic? And they're like, yes, I am. And I'm like, well, okay, we need to revisit that because that is a metabolic disease that will impact the way things happen. So often people have these health things that they just don't think of, like you're saying,
because you
that
just
is
live
from
with it
their
every
past.
day.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just part of your life. You don't think about how that is going to impact something that you're starting new like this.
There's very few conditions, though, that you can't train in some way with. We just have to tailor it to that situation. There's a few things you have to be very careful. There's a variety of things that we make sure that the doctor has cleared people for. But then you just find out where somebody's at, and that's just your starting point. I've had so many clients that have had just this huge list of medications when we started because of usually metabolic situations. And then 3 weeks, 4 weeks into it, they're visiting their doctor, they're off this medication. The next thing you know, they're off this medication. And it's really interesting to see that there is a big effect from just being active and changing your nutrition. You can kind of peel back a lot of that medication a lot of times.
Sure.
So I know, as somebody who has done a lot of different programs to get in shape, and having been in really good shape at different periods in my life. Like I was in really good shape and then, over time got out of shape and then really got back into shape with a specific program or multiple programs at the same time and then got back out of shape and then got into shape. In the past, there was a lot of different theories on things that worked, things that didn't work. So pulling from my own experience, one of the questions that I have is it better to do like a light cardio warm-up before you lift weights?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is primarily to protect the joints. When somebody's doing a warm-up, we usually say, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes of cardio, but the goal is actually to raise the body temperature just a little bit. By raising the body temperature just a little bit, it changes some of the things that are happening within the joints, things that are happening within the muscles, and kind of gets you ready to work out. So the question that kind of comes along with that a lot is people want to stretch before they do strength training, and that actually is not necessarily the thing that we want to do. So you do want to do a little bit of a cardio warm-up before you go into strength training. You want to stretch at the end. So often everybody's like, I need to stretch first. I'm like, no, let's not do that. Let's do that at the end. And there's reasons behind it, but get the body warmed up, get the body temperature up just a little bit, get everything moving, and then get into doing the strength training and stretch at the end.
So what happens if you can't do 10 to 15 minutes of cardio? Because I'm pretty sure that's where I'm at this point.
Yeah, I would worry
for
about
even
me
a
being
warm-up.
Well,
I feel like I'd be lucky if I could do 5.
But it sounds to me like you're thinking getting on a treadmill and running. 10 to
Right.
15 minutes of a gentle warm up. It's just walking, maybe.
Okay.
It might be sitting on the stationary bike and just, think about everybody's going to have a different response based on their fitness level. But if our goal is really just to kind of kick that body temperature up a little bit, as soon as your heart starts beating
Sure.
a little faster, that body temperature is going to go up. So for right now, it's just going to be a really casual pace.
Okay.
Down the road, it might be a little bit heavier pace.
So what she's telling us is, by the time we walk downstairs where the weights are at, we will have hit that
You'll be ready to
elevated
go.
heart rate.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's quite as enough for us, but maybe I can convince you to go on a walk outside for around the house.
Well, every time we try to plan that, then the weather's shit.
I know, it really is.
The last
recently.
2 times that we went, it was super windy and it was cold. I even bundled
really
up the
was.
last time and it was cold.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it needs to be a little bit warmer or we're going to have to move.
Well, I have a trainer, and my trainer's like favorite phrase is, but did you die? No, I mean, you're still here. You made it around the block. It may not have been comfortable, but you got the, 15-minute walk, maybe something like that.
Right.
It was over. You were back. It was done.
Right.
May not have been super pleasant, but we live in Iowa. It's not going to be super pleasant about 8 months out of the year. So if you intend to do that walk outside, be prepared.
Right. We'll get
That's
the
just the way it is.
elliptical. We'll change the elliptical machine from a coat tree to an actual elliptical machine, and you can do the elliptical.
So you talked a little bit about the equipment that you have.
Yeah.
I will just say you mentioned the two pieces of equipment that I think are probably at the bottom of the list.
Oh, funny.
Because those are hard to get your heart rate up on. So they have an elliptical and a recumbent bike. And just because of the amount of muscle that's used in each one of those,
Sure.
if you're wanting to use it actually for cardio training,
Okay.
it's harder to get your heart rate up. They're not putting you in a position where you're having to move the blood as much, for one, especially on the recumbent bike. And then with the elliptical, the idea behind it, of course, is that it's no impact. It's gentler on the joints, but
Right.
because of that, your muscles aren't handling near as much body weight. So those two are hard to get the heart rate up and to burn calories. So those are the ones that are at the very bottom of my list.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never had a problem getting my heart rate up on the elliptical.
But your heart rate goes from dead to alive. Like that's a natural thing for you. Like you were, when you're in the hospital and you start meditating, the alarms go off because they think that you're dying because your heart rate goes so low. I, on the other hand, your highest heart rate is my resting heart rate. So I get on the elliptical and it shoots all the way up to where they get concerned, kind of thing. Like
So that's
we're
all
very,
conditioning, and that's kind of
Right.
how we tend to judge where somebody's at with conditioning.
Right. And that's what I'm
So,
saying.
right.
Even when I was playing basketball twice a week,
Yeah.
and I had great cardio, when I would get on the elliptical machine, I mean, I'm going at a fast enough pace that my heart rate would.
Right. But your heart rate was before the virus and getting sick and stuff. Your heart rate was normally in the 40s or 50s with resting.
Right.
And then, yeah, when you would start working out, it would shoot up into the 70s, 80s. I start in the high 70s, low 80s.
All right, I know. When I would play
So-
basketball, it would get up to almost 100.
Yeah.
But I mean,
What-
that's pretty intense.
Yeah, when I'm actually being active, I'm in the 110s, 120s. If I get up to the 150s, I feel like I'm dying.
So you're I would have to actually sit down and look at a little bit more numbers, but
Sure.
you would want to be more like in the 140, 145 for
So
a
you want to be in
sustained
the
cardio.
dying range?
That is not a dying range. It may feel like that. So part of when I am more in person with people, I do a little bit more heart rate training. So we do
Sure.
have heart rate monitors on people, and we have different zones based on that personal, their age, their fitness level, kind of adjusted to that. And we work at getting into certain heart rates for training.
Gotcha.
I know my heart rate to get into is in the like 165s or toward the higher end, but I should be training in anywhere 145, 155 for sustained cardio to get a really good response from that. So I don't know when you say
don't
you
know
could
that
get your
mine's
heart
ever
rate
been
up
that
there.
high.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's just kind of where I'm coming from, is that it probably is not getting your heart rate up there the way you think it might be. And
Nope.
so you may not be getting the response that you
So even though
want
it's getting to the
out of the
hundreds,
training.
you actually want to be into the 130s, 140s.
It would depend. Yeah, you just often want to. So when you were at kind of like your maximum working on the elliptical and you said that it was getting high, do you have a feel for where that actually was?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would be like 80, 90.
Yeah, that's not really elevated. So that,
I doubled it, but that's not elevated.
no.
So when I played basketball, it never got in the 140. Like if it got 110, 120, it was like I was dying. I mean, I was painting.
And that would be that it would be peaking there and coming back down. So that's where you go back and you look at those medications. So that is probably something that if we actually looked more closely at the medications,
I wasn't on those medications then.
You weren't on anything?
I would have been on the anti-inflammatory. That's it.
Yeah. So they can have just some effects
Okay.
on things like that. But yeah, for the most part, if you're just getting up to 100 or so, for most people not on a medication, you're not really going to get a lot of response for that. That'd be running up the stairs and then walking down the hall kind of thing. So
This is really intriguing because especially we have Fitbits, and so the heart rate stuff has come and is really popular within the Fitbit stuff, and so I've been trying to kind of learn a little bit about it to figure it out. So this is really intriguing, and I feel like we have a lot more to talk about, but we're almost running out of time. So do we want to take a break and come back, or do we want to talk for a little bit longer?
No, yeah, I think that's a good stopping point.
Okay, so we have lots more to talk about as long as you're okay for sticking around for another one. So we will come back in a little bit and we'll join you next week as you're listening or watching us on YouTube. But we are Morrison Madness. Make sure that you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at morrison.madness. Other than Twitter, it's flipped. You can find all that information in our description. Make sure you're liking, commenting. Let us know if you're enjoying these, if there's stuff you want us to talk about. We always want to hear from you guys and see what.
And if you have questions about our progress once we start this, I mean, please.
Absolutely. Keep us accountable.
Yes. and I'm sure that if you have, if you're interested in talking to Laura, I'm sure that she would be happy to, we can, like we said, we'll put her information in the description.
Yep.
Or you can contact us and we can get you her information.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, thanks for joining us, and we will see you in the next podcast.
Take care.